This season, that's been the common thing, and it's something that has to change going forward as your schedule gets tougher.
I don't know. It's and especially in a game like this, we want to hear from all of you and what's gone on during this contest. Call in 315, especially in a game like this, we want to hear from all of you and what's gone on during this contest. Call in 315-443. Three-game win streak. First home win versus Florida State since January of 2017, which is great on paper, right? But at the same time, FSU is coming off its worst home loss ever. 113-69 to NC State over the weekend. What is this team doing? It shouldn't ever be this close against a team like that, right? It's the same old type roller coaster setting for this team that it's been throughout the entire season, throughout ACC play so far. They play up to their opponents. They play down to their opponents too.
Yeah, you're going to get a little bit of everything when you watch a Syracuse basketball game, right? You're going to get some plays where it's, oh my God, unbelievable stretch of basketball right there. Great energy. And then you'll get stretches where it's, what was that? I mean, a couple really poor turnovers from guys who I would say had pretty good games tonight. Nathan George, one of them, but he had that no-look pass in the second half, and then we're Sadiq White with the technical as well. I mean,
yeah, that was bad.
I know whether you want to say it was a technical foul, whether it warranted a technical foul, I don't think it did, just because it didn't seem like he said anything crazy to the. It's not like he was in the official's face, but knowing that it happened against Hofstra and it completely changed the game, you have to know better.
And that could have been a really big turning point in this one, like it was against Hofstra, because directly following that White technical foul, Florida State hits 2 free throws on the technical. Then they have a 1-and-1 at the line, go 2 for 2 there, and just like that, the 7-point lead that you just had is now cut down to 3, or an 8-point lead down to 4. I mean, it's just things like that. It's little mistakes that you can make, mental errors that don't even have to do with necessarily what's on the court. And it kind of goes back to this also. If you're Sadiq White, now you really have to know that in the back of your mind, you need to keep your composure a little bit more than maybe you had to back in early November or December, because now it's on record. You've got a technical against Hofstra. You got a technical here against Florida State. They're going to start reffing you. The whistle might be a little bit tighter on you now. You need to be able to keep that mental composure, because little mistakes like that can really hurt this team when they're not playing Florida State. Maybe when it's Miami. Maybe when it's Virginia Tech. Lord help them when it's North Carolina and Duke, right? Like, those things can't happen.
No, they can't. And you mentioned that you can't gloss over all of this because it's a win, right? And I think Syracuse knows that. But now it's at the point where, if it happens one time, maybe even twice.
You can kind of chalk it up, right?
Sometimes it happens.
It can't be a habit.
Exactly, right? Sometimes it happens in games, right? Sometimes there are games where it's just crazy back and forth. A couple plays don't get made here and there. But when it's happening consistently, it has to get fixed at some point. And as you talked about, it hasn't come back to bite them just yet, but it will later in the season. And actually, you can make the argument that it did in the Clemson game at the start in their first game in ACC play, because of how poor they were in the first half for the first couple minutes, and they couldn't make up the deficit. So you just have to be aware of, I know Autry always talks about playing with level 5 energy, but is this team capable of keeping level 5 energy throughout a full 40 minutes?
I don't know. I don't think so. It doesn't seem
like it, because the level 5 energy, it just seems like it's too much. Like, you go all out for a 15-minute stretch, and all of a sudden you have a 2-minute dip.
Yeah.
And that just can't happen. So maybe this level 5 energy isn't fully attainable.
And here's the thing, though, with the level 5 energy. It seemed like Syracuse had that level 5 energy throughout just about the entire game offensively, the way that most of the time that level 5 energy has been on the defensive end for the Orange. That was just completely reversed this year, because it just wasn't happening for the Orange during this game defensively. 86 points for Florida State. That's the second most points SU is allowed this year, only behind Iowa State when it lost by 30.
Yeah,
right.
I'm obviously chalk up Iowa State to being one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, Syracuse just a tough one. defensively, but did enough offensively to get it done. What did you think about Syracuse's offensive and defensive performance? Let us know. 315-443-2011. Once again, 315-443-2011. You can interact with us as well on X and YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. Rahil, there were definitely some good positive moments throughout this game, especially in the second half. Kind of look at that 9-0 run to start the second half, right? I mean, it really, or 7-0 run rather, it was really impressive how SU was resilient during that stretch as well at the very beginning of the game, because FSU goes on a 9-0 run to start, Syracuse counters, ties it up at 9. There were points during this game where I kind of thought to myself, wow, okay, maybe those little spurts that this team doesn't play very well are just starting to get a little bit more minute and a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller, and the good play is going to really start to overwhelm that. Well, it did, but then there were points that after that really good play offensively, defensively just really kind of lost its tune as well.
It's so interesting because it seems like it's kind of like a dam, right? Like, you know, you're trying to plug all the holes.
Yeah.
Syracuse plugs one hole, and then a giant one opens bursts, somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
Like, I even think back to the Tennessee game, right? The defense was fantastic. It was the offense that struggled.
Yeah, 62-61, Syracuse.
And in that game, the level 5 energy was on the defense. Offense, it didn't translate. Thankfully, J.J. Starling took over down the stretch in that contest. But now in a game like today, as you touched on, the offense was flowing like the best it has all season, but they couldn't get any stops. And now I do think a part of that has to do with how Florida State shot the basketball, especially at the start of the game.
Lights out.
But that's going to happen in some situations. So how do you adjust to that, right? How do you adjust to a team that's shooting the lights out? Do you try and maybe switch up your matchups? Do you try a different lineup as well? Like, it almost seemed like Syracuse was just hoping that Florida State would go cold.
Yeah.
And they did for a couple stretches, and then they're like, okay, they're cold now, but then all of a sudden FSU comes back. It just seemed like Syracuse was just kind of hoping that Florida State stopped, kind of went cold from beyond the arc.
Yeah, and that was something that Ryan Randoni and Griffin Marcy talked about early on in the contest, was how Florida State shoots a lot of threes, top of the ACC, nearly at the top of the country in three-point attempts. It's just kind of a matter of if they make them and if they don't. In the first half, the Seminoles were draining them, right? I mean, overall in the game, shot 10 of 27, made just one less three on the same amount of tries as the Orange, right? And that's why it was so close and why Syracuse could kind of overcome some of those slow spurts, is because FSU had some of the same. But you look back to when Florida State took Duke, 6th-ranked Duke at that point, and it was just a 4-point win for the Blue Devils. That's because FSU shot 47% from beyond the arc, right? This is a team that can get hot at any point in the game, at any point, at any game really during the season. It just happened to come against Syracuse. And credit to the Orange for being able to rally and not get behind because of how slow the offense has definitely been at some points in the year. But definitely a little bit of a concern that you just allow a team that's so streaky to have that kind of night against you when your defense has been so good all season.
I will say, like, the one positive, you can take out a lot of positives, but I think one of the main positives you can take away from this game is that your stars played like stars when they were needed most. And I mean, Donnie Freeman down the stretch, another really good game. William Kyle had a very quiet first half.
Yeah.
And then he has that stretch where he has 3 consecutive dunks. And even guys like Nathan George, when you needed it most, found a man for an assist. Tyler Betsy as well was absolutely phenomenal. 6 threes. We already talked about it off the bench. It was plays like that where you were like, okay, your big-time guys can show up in the big moments, and that is definitely a positive, because if that game happened 2 years ago or last year, I think that's one that Syracuse gets away.
I completely agree.
I don't think they win that game if this is the team from last year.
If this is last year, I think. I was on the record after the Pitt game when I was on the double overtime with Jake Klein, and I said, just because the record has changed doesn't mean anything really else about this team has changed. And I would say that if this is last year's team, they don't win this game. I totally believe that. There have just been so many other instances where I can kind of point to and say, well, this is the same as last year. This team still struggles in this point of the game, right? I mean, it's just not a complete team. But offensively, they looked pretty complete tonight.
Tonight, they haven't throughout the season. What's been complete has been the defense. But again, it's just it's just you every time you hope that Syracuse, is going to pull away, it's just some little mistake. And again, as we've talked about, it didn't hurt you tonight against Florida State. Hasn't hurt you for the most part in ACC play, but when the schedule gets, a lot more difficult, you can't have these stretches against UNC, against Virginia, against Duke. It's not going to be a winning recipe. And even in a game against like Miami or Virginia Tech, teams who are
Miami's really good. I think
these are teams
it's
that are
starting
not
to get in the point where you can start to group Miami in with the
right.
Louisvilles
and these are not
the Virginias.
right, and they're not ranked right now.
15-2, 4-0 in ACC play. They'll probably be ranked pretty soon.
And you talk about it. Syracuse has to go almost perfect in those games because of the Hofstra loss, right? You have no leeway when it comes to the games that you should win. For example, like if you lose back-to-back games against Virginia Tech and Miami, that almost kills your stock completely, and it could come down to the fact that you had these dips and lacks in concentration, and that's just something that needs to get solved, but who knows? Who knows if it does I don't know if it does get solved this season. I think, Josh, this might be a thing where we just have to accept that this is what the team is.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that you could almost point to of maybe areas to improve. Obviously, it's very easy to just say, the offense or the defense. I mean, there were a couple performances today that I wasn't too pleased by. Nate Kings is really number one on the list, right? 18 minutes, 6 points, 2 of 7 from the field, all of them which were threes. Just not exactly his best performance, and he's not somebody that I've been very concerned about with his shooting ability. I mean, he shot 44% at Oregon State last year, but I mean, that's down to 31% on the year now. It's starting to get a little concerning, but what can really help you in some of those games, in ACC play down the stretch is some good production off the bench, and Tyler Betsy did just that, right? 18 points, 6 of 9, 6 threes. I mean, he's somebody that you can really turn to and say, hey, if Nate Kings isn't having a great day, if J.J. Starling isn't having a great day, maybe if somebody's hurt as well, this is somebody that you could kind of plug and play whenever you need to.
Right, and that's the main difference in this year's team versus last year's team, right? Last year's team did not have the depth, right? They did not
at all.
Right?
Not at all.
Last year, Nate Kings would have had to play, near 40 minutes, even if he wasn't playing well. This year, you have the option of bringing a Tyler Betsy off the bench. And I'm glad that Autry decided to go with Betsy in the closing moments. I got a little nervous when they took him out at the 8-minute mark, but they brought him back in for the final 4 minutes. I thought that was a great call from Autry, sticking to his word that we're going to kind of judge the game, right? There is no set closing 5. It's based on the feel of the game.
You have to have some feel at some point. It can't just be up to the numbers and everything. I mean, there's so many different avenues. What do you think could be a new avenue that Syracuse could take offensively, defensively to really try and get out of those spurts where the team just really starts to struggle in those few minutes? Call in and let us know. 315-443-2011. Once again, 315-443-2011. Josh Richardson and Rahil Jaswal on the double overtime for about another hour and 15 minutes. Rahil, some quotes coming in from Adrian Autry's press conference that I think we could really relate back to this. Autry said, I was proud that we pulled it out, but I'm just really disappointed in the defensive side of the basketball. Well, two things. One, duh. I mean, that kind of checks out.
A lot of coach speak there.
But two, this is just a situation now where what are you going to do about it? Because I don't want to see this happen as the season, especially in ACC play, goes on, because it's one thing for your offense to just keep going, but the easiest way to win games is defense, right? Because as soon as you get in a track meet with the team and you start to miss, there's no guarantee that they're going to start to miss on the other side either. If you can have a stout defense like SU has had throughout a majority of this season so far, I don't want to have to see that slip away during ACC play.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a lot of coach speak, right? Because as you said, no kidding. The question is now, how do you fix that? Because this is not a one-off. This is 3 consecutive games where something like this has happened, and you should never find yourself in this position when you score over 90 points in a game.
Caller on the line, Lester from Liverpool. You want to talk about Donnie Freeman. What'd you think, Lester?
I do. First of all, guys, I just want to say I'm so glad you're back. I've been dying to call in for weeks, and the phones have gone unanswered. But we're back with another win, and I just want to say, Donnie Freeman, since coming back, 18 points, 23, 27, 25. If he played for Duke, he'd win the Naismith. I think he's being totally totally forgotten, and it's unfair.
I don't hate that take. I don't hate that take at all. Is there anything that he can do more to maybe try and get some of that recognition nationwide?
I mean, yeah, maybe if he starts dropping triple-doubles every game, what else do you want him to do?
Hey, 25 points and 8 rebounds for Donnie. I mean, he really seems to come alive at every moment that SU needs him to, right, Lester?
It's brilliant.
Yes. You know, he's the guy. I want the rock in his hands down the stretch. And, I mean, unfortunately, we saw that against Clemson and he missed, but I didn't hate the shot. And, you know, it's tough because looking back, if he never got hurt, we might be having some different conversations about this season. Even if, you know, you win one game, Houston, Clemson, Hofstra, one of those games, and this would totally be a different conversation. But I still have faith in this team, and I think down the stretch, you know, they can eke their way in there.
Yeah, and I think one of the kind of underrated points about Donnie Freeman is, Lester, you were referencing some of those Vegas games, is the fact that he can make a free throw in the clutch, right? So if you had him for that Houston game where Syracuse misses 10 free throws, then you're having a different story. But I think what's awesome about Donnie Freeman is just you can tell he's put the work in. He clearly put the work in the weight room, a lot stronger, a lot better on defense. So it's great to see. And maybe if he has a performance like this against a ranked team like a Duke, then we can have some serious conversations about him getting some more national media attention.
Lester, you think he can do that against a Duke?
I'll be the first guy to call in when he does.
Okay.
We're excited to hear from you when that happens, Lester. Thank you. Thanks for calling in. If you want to chat with us like Lester has, let us know. 315-443-2011. Syracuse 94-86 win over Florida State. 12-5 on the season. 3-1 in ACC play. There was something else I kind of want to go back to here about why in the world was this game so close for Hill? And it's something that I don't think we've touched on nearly enough. 113-69 loss to NC State for FSU back on Saturday. New head coach Luke Laux really trying to make an impression with his team, build a culture, build a foundation. Lost by 44. FSU did 44 sprints up and down the court after losing by as many. Largest home loss in program history.
That makes my stomach churn just listening to that.
Can you run that many times back and down? I don't know if I can anymore.
Josh,
I don't think I have the stamina.
I strained my groin, like getting just running like over break.
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen.
That's a lot, but
it's not gonna happen.
You know what though? But I think something that kind of goes back to is. You knew that FSU did not want to get embarrassed like
right,
that.
You knew
again.
you were going to get their best effort.
They were going to get their best game, no matter if it was Syracuse or Georgia Tech or Miami, whoever the Seminoles were playing. Florida State was going to give its best effort. It just happened to be against Syracuse, and they happened to shoot the ball really well, but Syracuse did just enough to prevail.
Yeah, and again, going back to what Autry said, saying, I'm proud that we pulled it out, obviously, right? He's seen games like that get away from teams he's coached in the past, like last year. So, but again, it's at the point where what are you going to do to fix the issues you are having right now? Because it can't just be, we got to get better. We got to do this. No kidding. But the question is, when are we going to see it translate? And we haven't seen that so far. So now you've got to pick me up coming up against Boston College, and then maybe you see it as the schedule gets a little tougher. But
yeah, we'll get to schedule stuff a little bit down the road, but more just on this game. It really started to get tight down the stretch, right? 10 minutes left, 11 minutes left. Florida State takes the lead back 65-64. It was close back and forth. Nate George, for as great of a game as he had, first double-double with Syracuse. He had 13 assists, limited the turnovers down to 4. He was in back-to-back games with 6, so really starting to show some improvement as a passer, kind of back where he was with Georgia Tech last year. But just a couple boneheaded mistakes, right? Yeah. One of those turnovers, tried a no-look pass out of bounds, threw it to the nobody. It just made things a little bit difficult for Syracuse to kind of regain some of that momentum that it was building after that, because Florida State goes down, and then you're in a back-and-forth game, just kind of a barn burner from about the 11-minute mark to the 3-minute mark, and then Syracuse kind of pulled away.
Yeah, those are ones where it's like he's almost a victim of his own success, right?
Yeah.
Because he's such a good passer that,
I love that you have the confidence, but don't feel like you need to do that every single pass.
In that situation. But again, it's something where I just feel like that's a part of this team. I don't know I just don't think this is going to get fixed. I think we can only judge it based on what we have seen, and the pattern has been Syracuse is going to have these dips. The question is, how do they respond after the dips, right? They're going to happen. I don't think this team is capable of playing a full 40 minutes against an ACC squad at level 5 energy on both sides of the ball. I just don't think it's possible.
It was a tight win, 94-86. Mike from Manillas wants to talk about that close call. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, Manlius.
Okay,
so SU is a living team. You got to understand, our players are humans, and there's going to be fluctuations. It's not a matter of effort, just a matter of focus. So it's something we can work on. And I want to remind you what happened in George Foreman versus Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali pulled a rope-a-dope, and in the end, he won. So I have confidence in this team.
Even in a close win like that, it still gives you confidence that they can stack up with some of the best in the ACC?
Well, it remains to be seen versus Duke and some of the really top teams, but for now, they're putting their head above the water. They're struggling. They're fighting. They're doing everything they can do as human beings, and I applaud them for their effort.
I like that, Mike. I just kind of think about it, right? Like, do you want to see some sort of, consistently, because it really feels like this team plays up and plays down to its opponent. At some point, I do just kind of want to see a bit of a status quo, right?
Yes, SU in the past, in the Boeheim era, was known sometimes for playing down to the opponent. And I think this is a different animal this year in that the Boeheim era is gone. This is Coach Autry's era. So it's going to be a new creation, a new life. And this team is the team that can do it.
Mike from Manlius, thank you so much for the call. Maybe this is the team that can do it. 94-86. Rahil, what do you think about that?
If you're talking get back to the NCAA tournament, I don't know. I just feel like there's still too many question marks around this team, and I just think the position that SU has put themselves in with the loss to Hofstra just gives you no leeway going forward. Now, if they had won that Hofstra game and
you have a bit more
cushion to maybe lose a game that maybe you should win, but it's just like at this point, I don't think this is the team to get back to the tournament.
Really?
No.
You don't think that there's even a chance?
I'm not saying no. There's definitely a chance, obviously, but I think this is going to be very similar to what happened 2 years ago. They go into the ACC tournament.
Yeah, they get 20 wins,
needing a couple wins,
right on the bubble, and they don't
then
get it.
Yeah.
Was that your stance kind of going into this game, or was there? I didn't know if there was something.
That was my stance
during this game that kind of.
That was my stance going into this season, and I think it's going that way.
Still three straight wins for Syracuse in ACC play. 3-1 overall, 12-5 as a whole on the season. And Syracuse still just keeps getting the job done, sneaking by. 10-point win Georgia Tech, 11-point win over Pitt, 8-point win over Florida State. I mean, it's been close back and forth. There have been some moments, some good, some bad. Chris from Georgia wants to talk about it, how Syracuse has been kind of up and down. Chris?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm happy you're talking about kind of just this rocky road of a year for SU. And before, I think it's been well mentioned here on the show with your guys' great variety of hosts, that this team just loves to play up and down. And yep. I think a lot of that is on the coaching staff.
I couldn't agree
you talk
more.
About going, this is now it's early in the year. That was back in November, but going toe-to-toe with Houston without Donnie Freeman and up in Vegas. And then a game like tonight where Florida State is 7-9. Syracuse should be running away with this game at home. There's no reason that this game was close and that most fans had to be on the edge of their seats. This should have been a game where Syracuse could dominate and then mix some things up. But it doesn't seem like a team that is ready and prepared. And I know Syracuse has a lot of quad 1, quad 2 chances, but I'm wondering where you guys are at with the future here of this season and if they can make the tournament, because this is one of the longest stretches in program history, and that is, I think, what every conversation needs to come down to at this point. I just don't know if I'm ready to now, that's a good thing. Maybe they do play up to the Dukes and the UNCs,
maybe.
But where are you guys at with that? And then also a question about a bigger question about like the relevance of the team. Like, are the students getting up for these games? This is a 9 o'clock tip. Why is the tip so late? Like, I'm just wondering, as someone who was a former student, now watching from afar, I still love Syracuse basketball like crazy. I desperately want them to make the tournament. Are students really excited for these games now that they have not been a relevant team?
I will say, I think for this game, for a 9 p.m. tip, I thought it was a very good crowd. Now, the 9 p.m. tip, the previous game against St. Joseph's, that one's tough to judge because that was over winter break. You know, students are going home. The weather was bad. So I think the buy-in from the students has been there since the Tennessee game. I thought it would disappear maybe a little bit after Hofstra, but it seems like the fans are still bought in. But, Chris, I'm glad you brought up the point toward what you were saying there about being prepared to play. Because in these games, Syracuse has consistently come out very slow. Now, obviously credit to Florida State because they made their shots and they put a lot of pressure on SU, but I don't think they're taking teams lightly, but it's just like you want to see you can't keep putting yourselves in these holes. If you come out and start a game against Miami or Virginia Tech like this, it's going to be very hard to come back. Exhibit A, the Clemson game, right? That team is now ranked. You started so poorly, and you almost came all the way back, but it's just like you'd like to see SU start quickly for once in these type of games.
Yeah, that's a great point, and you guys were talking about it earlier. It almost looked like SU was just hoping that Florida State would start to miss its shots.
Yeah.
That's never a recipe for success, like you said, against these bigger teams. And the Tennessee game I think is a great point because I think that's our glimmer of hope. And for me, it's still the Houston stretch and the solid performance in Vegas without Donnie Freeman. And look, if Donnie is going to be available, which has just been his issue, is availability. Yeah. If he finishes the year, I do think Syracuse has a chance. Like I know it sometimes feels like doom and gloom for me from afar, but I'm happy to hear that the students are still engaged because it's been a long time without a tournament team, and I feel like just again from being there, and I'll make this one of my last points. You guys are doing a great job. On to one. I had one time I was on a show. We were hosting till 1:50 after an NCAA tournament game, so you guys can do this. But look, knowing like there's some more casual fans who don't love Syracuse sports as much as we do, as much as the listeners do, but they're going to get up for these big games, and they're going to get up for, hey, we're in an NCAA tournament game, like we feel relevant. So I do believe Syracuse basketball is just starving for a tournament chance, and I know it's sometimes early to say that in mid-January, but I think that's what Syracuse fans can look forward to, is that every game is so big for this team. And like I said, and like you guys have said, the fact that they play up and down might actually be good if they can pull off some of these big wins and get something on the resume, because besides Tennessee, I don't see much. But again, thank you guys for having me. Love the double overtime. Love WAER. Donate if you can, all that good stuff. You guys rock. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, for your support and everything you've done, calling in and interacting with us. There have definitely been a lot of moments where SU has played up and played down to its opponents. We've harped on that. Syracuse, thankfully, did play down a little bit to Florida State, but still did just enough to squeak out a 94-86 win over the Seminoles. We'll take a quick break here on WAER. Still got another hour of double overtime here with Rahil Jaswal. I'm Josh Richardson. We'll get to talk about some three-point shooting, how it went for both teams. 11 threes for SU, 10 for Florida State. It was raining early and often in the Dome and made this one a pretty high-scoring affair. We'll talk about that after this break. Don't go anywhere.
The Ostrom Avenue Podcast, breaking down Syracuse athletics.
The students rush the field. The Orange are bowl eligible and 6-0 for just the third time in the last 87 years.
And interviewing the industry's experts.
We are now joined by a very special guest. It's Emily Leiker of Syracuse.com.
Check out video interviews on YouTube at Ostrom Avenue Podcast and weekly episodes on WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
NewsHour from the BBC.
Understand what's happening.
With news.
What's going on?
Heat waves, cyclones, storms, floods.
Increasingly unpredictable weather events.
Interviews.
2024 is the hottest year on record.
This is an uncharted situation.
And analysis of the day's global events.
In the Middle East, it's very difficult to be shocked nowadays.
That's NewsHour from the BBC.
Weekdays after Morning Edition at 9 on WAER, your local NPR station.
For 7 years now, NPR has tracked the prices of dozens of items at the same Walmart in Georgia. In the past year, almost half of the items on our shopping list got more expensive, including shrimp, Oreo cookies, Coca-Cola, and Dove soap. Rising costs at the supermarket on the next Morning Edition from NPR News.
Weekdays from 5 to 9 on 88.3 WAER.
George, the far pass up ahead. Betsy, far corner three, right where he left off from the first half. Tyler Betsy, triple number 5.
Back here on the double overtime, Rahil Jaswal alongside Josh Richardson. Syracuse 94, Florida State 86. If you want to call in, we've already had 3 callers. You can do that at 315-443-2011. Or interact with us at WAER Sports Talk on our X or our live YouTube stream. You heard Griffin Marcy say it there, one of Tyler Betsy's 6 triples in what was a great three-point shooting day for Syracuse. But Josh, also Florida State. Syracuse came into this game holding teams to 21% from deep. FSU makes 10 of them, 40%. Now, a couple of them were tough threes, but there were also a few where you would have liked
wide open
to see Syracuse with a harder contest, knowing that the 3 ball was falling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can, at the beginning of the game, if SU is kind of daring Florida State to make shots, I'm fine with that, because this is a team that is consistently inconsistent in Florida State. You shoot 40% from 3 against Duke, just lose against a top 5 team in the nation, one of the best, if not the best, in the ACC. And then you also have games where you can't hit a shot, you lose by 44 at home to NC State, right? So there's 2 sides of that coin. Syracuse got the former in this one, and part of that was their own fault, because sometimes if you hit enough threes early on, if you're Florida State, you build a lot of confidence, right? Sometimes those shots, you're looking at a rim, and it's as wide as, I don't know, it's as wide as just the biggest hoop that you could possibly find, right?
Yeah, no.
It looks like a circus rim. I mean, but... And then there's other times where Florida State goes cold. That didn't really happen a whole lot, maybe a little bit in the second half, where it doesn't look like they can hit water when they fell out of a boat. But when you start off that hot and you start off shooting that well, the confidence grows, and then it becomes harder and harder and harder for Syracuse to get consistent stops.
And the issue is, once, FSU is making shots like that, then all of a sudden Syracuse play a little bit more aggressive, and then all of a sudden, the paint opens up a little more, right? If a team is just knocking down threes left and right, it becomes so difficult to defend. But you talked about there's just still a couple kind of breakdowns where a couple times, a team is shooting hot and Syracuse will go under on a ball screen, right?
It's just not a smart basketball decision.
You know this from playing pickup games. Like
I try.
I mean, you can't go under on ball screens when a team is shooting the lights out, and it's just, I would have preferred to see Syracuse try and make more of an adjustment to that. Whether that's maybe playing, a little more, up in their play, getting physical, maybe up in their face, trying to throw them off with the physicality, because I think the Syracuse team can do that, right? It's just, I would like to see more of a change instead of just kind of hoping that a shot doesn't go in, which we've touched on already in the show.
Yeah, I mean, you can go under on ball screens, but you just need your help side defender to hedge up. Whoever the man is that's guarding the man setting the screen, you need them to blitz and trap that primary ball handler immediately from the side that he's taking the screen, right? That's immediately how you can get that ball out of his hand. The issue with that is, as athletic as William Kyle is, I don't trust him one-on-one on the perimeter. And if you get into a spot where he's the one that you're kind of baiting out onto the perimeter to get a switch, because he's a great rim protector, he's a great blocker, great rebounder, especially for an undersized big man. But when you get him out on the perimeter, it becomes really difficult for him to get key defensive stops on some really quick guards that Florida State has.
Right, and I think, that was one of the big question marks around William Kyle at the start of the year. Obviously, his defense has been phenomenal.
Oh,
I mean, William Kyle's
it's been
a
fantastic.
revelation this year. But
he's probably the only player on Syracuse that Florida State can really, or any team rather, can target if you're going to try and do that and beat them on the perimeter with threes. Because Donnie Freeman is quick.
Sadiq White is quick enough.
Exactly. They're all quick enough, and they're all lanky enough. William Kyle, he's got a bit of bulk to him. He's more of he's a defender inside. He's a rim protector. He's not a great perimeter defender. He's athletic enough to pass by and to kind of survive. But, game on the line, I don't really trust him
and the
taking
issue
a switch on the perimeter for
And the issue is when you get to play the better teams, they're going to recognize that matchup more. And the question is, how does Autry then balance that with keeping William Kyle in, but also keeping his physical his rim presence, right? Because Sadiq White can give you both. It's just that Sadiq White right now is very inexperienced.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be playing him high minutes against a Duke, against a North Carolina, just because, there are a couple times he might reach, get a couple personal fouls, right? It's just, he's not ready yet for those kind of minutes.
Yeah. There is an answer, but it does kind of expose some other problems. The 2-3 zone.
Yep.
What about that? It always comes back to the 2-3 zone for Syracuse,
all roads here lead to the 2-3 zone.
And that's the thing. 2-3 zone kind of exposes you to more catch-and-shoot threes, especially on the wings and in the corners, but it will prevent a lot of ball screen kind of moving around and up and over. If your guards are, maybe not quick enough or a little bit tired to try and chase over those screens, it's just a different way of playing defense, but obviously man-to-man zone, nothing really worked tonight for Syracuse against Florida State.
And they did throw out the zone a couple times.
They did.
And they kind of sprinkled it.
But just to give them a different look,
right?
Right,
and that's perfectly fine as well, because you don't want to stick in man if you're getting cooked the entire game. But again, the 2-3 zone, again, it's to protect guys who are more weaker on defense. But, I feel like this squad is good enough to hold their own athletically, just in general on defense. Obviously, there's issues with William Kyle when it comes to him being dragged on the perimeter, but you're just going to get that with any kind of big man.
Yeah, you have to think, right? But at least if you go into that zone look, Kyle gets to stay down low. He protects the rim. You have your wings, and especially if those wings are the athletics, right? If you have a lineup, let's say you have Sadiq on one side or you have Tyler Betsy on one side, then you have Freeman, and then you have Starling and George up top as the two, and then those two in Freeman and then White/Betsy are in the corners. That's a lot of tall, lanky guys with a lot of wingspan in your corners, and then you have some quick guards at the top of the key to really move around and kind of allow yourself to have that type of athleticism defensively. The one thing it obviously opens up is some elbow jumpers, free throw line jumpers, and then it's just a matter of, can William Kyle get up to those? Can Donnie Freeman crash down from the corner to guard the rim? Because he's a pretty good rim protector, too. He had 3 blocks against Georgia Tech, right? He's tall enough to do that. So there's a couple different things. Obviously, everything has its pluses and minuses. I just want to see Syracuse try and do a couple different things, especially against Boston College, because BC is even worse than Florida State is on paper.
They're bad.
Right? I think you can get away with kind of experimenting some of the good and the bad of some new defensive sets, because Florida State clearly exposed some things that not a whole lot of teams were throughout the early portion of the season in non-conference for Syracuse.
Well, if anyone has any ideas about what Syracuse can do to help fix their three-point defense, you can call in at 315-443-2011. Josh and I would love to hear your voices, taking you up till 1 a.m. here on the Double Overtime. But we talked about the three-point shooting for Florida State. On the flip side, much more positive, how about Syracuse? Because at the start of the year, after the Binghamton game, head coach Adrian Autry said three-pointers wouldn't be this team's MO. They turn in their best performance against Pitt, where they make 10, and again today, really strong from beyond the arc.
Yeah, 11 of 27, right? 10 of 27 for FSU, 11 of 27 for Syracuse. That's 41%. As a team, if you shoot 41%, that's a pretty good day. And now if you're starting to string those together, that's a really good sign offensively for Syracuse. I think offensively, these are probably the best 3 games that Syracuse has strung together this season.
100%.
I understand that Pitt is really bad. I understand that Florida State is really bad. Georgia Tech gave them a scare.
It looked like it flowed a lot better.
Yes, it did. And what a surprise, Donnie Freeman was a catalyst in all 3 of those games. So no surprise, the best player on the team is going to make the offense better. But it's really shown, because there have been some moments in the non-conference that we've kind of looked at, wow, they played really well offensively. Houston, they played well offensively. They just couldn't hit a free throw to save their life, and that was why they lost that game, right? Kansas, they played pretty well offensively in the first half, started to tail off in the second half. There have been a lot of moments throughout this year that we've kind of looked at and said, okay, this team is starting to get it together, and it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Now it seems like they're going 5 steps forward with these last 3 games offensively, but now you got to get the defense together as well. But offensively, the 3-point shot, it's a really big key moving forward.
And one thing I was really happy with was even the threes that didn't go down, for the most part,
they looked pretty close.
They were very good looks, right? Nate Kings didn't have his best day shooting the basketball, but there were still possessions where you're like, you'll live with that because it's an open 3 from the corner. Right? It's not like it's, you're hucking them from nearly 28 feet and it's contested, right? Or it's early in the shot clock, for example, with no ball movement. That time you're like, why would you shoot that? But today was an example of what happens when you move the basketball well. And I also want to give credit to J.J. Starling because J.J. Starling, 15 points isn't his, kind of best scoring day for him, but 7 of 10 shooting, and I loved how he was aggressive in transition, and he helped set up a lot of guys to get open looks, and 0 of 1 from 3, mainly because, that's he slashes the basket.
He's starting to figure out his role in this offense.
And it's taken a little bit because of the evolution of Donnie Freeman and even someone like a Tyler Betsy. But again, those threes that were even not, that weren't, that didn't go down, you'll live with those on any given night, right? It's the issue with Syracuse becomes sometimes they'll take a couple threes where it's like, why would you take that shot?
Yep.
Right? Why would you take that shot?
Nate George, primary example. Yeah. It didn't happen a whole lot in this game, but so many times will Syracuse kind of go on a bit of a scoring run, maybe 5-0, 7-0, and they really have a chance to blow the doors open with a good, sound offensive possession. Now, George necessarily may be responsible for 2 of those points, or maybe he's got a couple assists on the possession, but then he'll just go down right in the right side of the court, get to the right wing, maybe 10 seconds gone in the shot clock, and then just kind of sidestep, put up a 3.
Right,
and then it just slows all of the momentum.
You only take that 3 when you're feeling it.
Exactly.
And right, Betsy took one right where he just pulled up from pretty deep, but it was like he's made 4 or 5 he's made 6 triples. Like,
I'm going to let him do that.
Yeah, I'm going to let him do that if he's feeling it, right?
It has to be within the flow of the offense. And I think everybody's really starting to figure that out again. Nate George had a nice day, right? He had 8 points, but he had 13 assists. He did what his role in the offense was that day.
That is the Nate George that people were expecting.
Exactly.
Right?
J.J. Starling, right? He had 15, 7 of 10, maybe not his highest scoring day, but again, he's starting to find his role in the offense because the evolution of Donnie Freeman was obviously slowed by the injury last year when he missed basically the entire second half of the season, and then, of course, missing a large portion of non-conference as well. Can't forget about J.J. Starling missing some time last season again with the hand injury, which he said really was a bit of a struggle to shoot after that when he came back. So
makes sense.
He's starting to figure it out again. And
he did have that leg injury.
Yeah,
at the start of the year.
He had the hamstring. And I think he's starting to realize I don't need to be the guy that takes 4 or 5 threes a game. We have other shooters. Let me get to my strength, which is driving to the rim and shooting. Some of the other guys that can really perform from beyond the arc, Donnie Freeman can shoot. Nate Kings can shoot. Didn't have a great day today. Tyler Betsy can shoot. Kyan Anthony, when he plays, can shoot. Didn't have a great day either. But there are a lot of other options. It doesn't just have to be J.J. Starling.
You bring up Nate Kings.
Yeah.
And you bring up Tyler Betsy. Right?
Yeah.
Nate Kings has pretty much been in the starting 5 the entire season, right? And that was expected coming out of Oregon State. But now, is it time to put Tyler Betsy in the starting line? Okay, Nate Kings today,
I'd say no.
6 points, 2 of 7 in 18 minutes. Tyler Betsy, 18 points, 6 of 8 from 3. Is it time for Autry to make a switch?
No, I don't think so because I trust Nate Kings to do more than just shoot the 3. I don't trust Tyler Betsy to do much else besides shooting the 3.
Okay.
Because I look at Nate Kings and I see a guy that plays good perimeter defense. He's a good point of attack
Betsy
defender.
can hold his own on the defensive side of the ball,
He absolutely can. But I also look at Nate King's finishing ability, especially in transition, right? How many times does he get the ball out in front, or is he coming off a ball screen, driving to his left, takes a nice hop step, jump stop, puts up a lefty layup through contact, gets it, maybe gets fouled as well. I mean, this is somebody that can do a lot of different things. Not necessarily a 3-level scorer because he's not taking a whole lot of shots from the mid-range, but he can get to the hoop, and he can shoot threes. And when he starts to get hot, he really gets hot. I think a little bit is just kind of getting used to shooting in the dome, right? I understand that it's been. It's been 17 games in the season. I understand it. But you don't get lucky shooting 44% from three.
No, obviously
the entire
not.
Course of
And
the
I think
season. He's going to figure it out. I trust him. I think he brings more to the team in every phase of the game of basketball than Betsy does. Betsy may be a better shooter than him right now, but Nate Kings is a better basketball player.
Here's the issue with this, because a lot of players can respond in a lot of different ways. Right? So let's say next game or going forward, you put Tyler Betsy in the starting lineup. Does that completely kind of just kill Kings' confidence?
Absolutely.
Or,
I think it does.
Or is it one of those things where he resets coming off the bench and then has a couple good games, works his way back into form, and then does it? Now, I think if you take Nate Kings out of the starting lineup right now, it will kill his confidence.
I agree.
And I don't think that's something Syracuse can afford to do. Now, if Kings is playing a little hamper, then obviously you can
see how it goes in these next couple games, right? Boston College,
I just
Virginia
think
Tech.
right now it's a little too early.
Yeah, I think so too.
To make the switch now. If we're a couple 3 games down the line, and we're still having performances like this, and let's say Betsy doesn't even have to come in and shoot 6 of 8 from 3, but let's say he's scoring.
Let's say he shoots 40% every single night,
or he's scoring 12 or 14 points off the bench. Then we have a different discussion.
Let's say he goes 2 of 5 or 3 of 8 from 3 every single night.
Then
we have a bit of a discussion.
Then we start to have the discussion. Whereas you want to ride it out with Nate Kings, but if he's not getting the job done at some point, you got to make the change.
Yeah, and this is the thing with Betsy, too, is he can also be pretty inconsistent in his shooting,
right,
too,
he
has 18
He's a streaky
tonight.
shooter. He's streaky.
He has 9 against Pitt in 14 minutes. He plays just 9 minutes against Georgia Tech, hits just 1 3, right? 17 minutes against Stonehill, he's 0 of 4.
And you know what? Maybe you just start him at the 9 p.m. games, because he loves the 9 p.m. games. Because he was awesome in that St. Joseph's game as well. So,
but also say you put him in the starting lineup, and that just kind of bolsters the starting lineup. If Kings is still struggling coming off the bench, then where's your bench production coming from?
That is also
especially
then
if
you have
Kai
to,
and
then
Anthony
you start
isn't
to lean
playing
on
much.
Then
if
Sadiq
White
Kai
isn't
and
playing
Anthony,
much, right? If they're not getting a whole lot of minutes like they haven't been throughout really the last 4 or 5, 6 games, where is that bench production coming from?
Yeah.
Because if Nate Kings can't get it together, well, who else is doing it when the starters
maybe
go to the bench, right?
maybe in like limited minutes, it kind of helps him out, and maybe he doesn't feel like he has to take on a like. Maybe Kings, maybe he turns himself into kind of a defensive player first before the 3 ball, right? I'm sure Autry wouldn't mind that, right? It's just, again, I think it's too early to make the switch. I make the switch here. If you guys want to get in on this, you can do so at 315-443-2011. Do you want to see a switch in the starting lineup, or do you like the way it is right now? Now, I'm also glad, Josh, that we've touched on this, that Kings did not finish the game.
No, he didn't.
And I think Betsy deserved to play the final.
Which is the right move,
it is,
right?
Yeah.
Because I'm fine with, even if you want to play Kings in limited minutes, and Tyler Betsy did have more minutes, he had 4 more minutes tonight, 22-18, that's fine. But let Nate Kings still get some run in with the ones, right? And then by the feel of the game, by how the flow is going, and credit to Autry for making that switch and not just throwing the starting lineup out there and putting Betsy in to close that game, because that was the right call. Do that. Don't take him out of the starting lineup and throw him on the bench if you're going to try and make some sort of statement in terms of who you want to see at the end of a game. Just play the guys who are hot that night. And Tyler Betsy was pretty hot tonight.
Yeah, and Nate Kings is more than capable of getting hot. We saw it in the Tennessee game in that first half. Now, that was kind of the one pop he's had this season, and since then it's been, it hasn't been the best year for Kings, but hopefully he figures it out for Syracuse's sake. Because like you said, if you put him on the bench and he's not giving you the bench production, then all of a sudden you have to start leaning on Kai and Anthony, Sadiq White, who are more than capable of having their nights, especially Kai and Anthony. But again, freshmen still trying to figure it out. Especially
Sadiq White, not much behind the arc. Kyan can, but he hasn't as of late. He hasn't gotten a whole lot of opportunity.
Kyan's not going to give you much defensively.
No,
so
he'll give you some good shot creation, and he'll be able to get it done for himself. But you already have a couple of those guys, so if you turn to the bench unit and he's not getting a whole lot of minutes, then what purpose is he really serving if if he's your primary scorer coming off the bench.
And he did show some flashes in limited minutes today, him being dangerous in transition. But I'm telling you what, another person that's dangerous in transition is our very own Nick Evans. And we're going to have him on as our reporter. He was inside the Dome. He was at Autry's presser. He was witnessing it live. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll have him on after this quick break.
For 7 years now, NPR has tracked the prices of dozens of items at the same Walmart in Georgia. In the past year, almost half of the items on our shopping list got more expensive, including shrimp, Oreo cookies, Coca-Cola, and Dove soap. Rising costs at the supermarket on the next morning edition from NPR News.
Weekdays from 5 to 9 on 88.3 WAER.
For 7 years now, NPR has tracked the prices of dozens of items at the same Walmart in Georgia. In the past year, almost half of the items on our shopping list got more expensive, including shrimp, Oreo cookies, Coca-Cola, and Dove soap. Rising costs at the supermarket on the next morning edition from NPR News.
Weekdays from 5 to 9 on 88.3 WAER.
There is a one-stop listen for everything Syracuse athletics.
Syracuse men's lacrosse had arguably maybe Gary Gates' best weekend ever as head coach.
The Ostrom Avenue podcast provides unique opinions, plus exciting interviews from industry experts.
The voice of Syracuse men's lacrosse and Syracuse women's basketball as well. Tim Leonard, Javon Edmonds of Syracuse.com.
Check out weekly episodes and listen at WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Blocking a steal here by George for Syracuse against McRae, working quickly down the court, and alley-oop to Freeman, and he puts it home again. Back-to-back baskets for Donnie.
We're back on the double overtime. Syracuse 94, Florida State 86. SU improves to 12-5, 3-1 in ACC play, and on a 3-game win streak. And somebody that was in the Dome to see everything up close and in person, our reporter Nick Evans. Nick, I know it was a 9 o'clock tip. Did you get a Red Bull in beforehand? I mean, how are you? How are you?
You don't strike me as as a caffeine guy.
I don't. Yeah, well, it's because I'm not
okay,
at all. But no, late tip tonight again. They have a couple more of these coming
next week. Yep.
So they're gonna have to.
This is what, the third 9 o'clock tip?
Yeah, so they're gonna have to get used to it. I'm sure they already kind of are. I mean, they had enough energy in this one. I also think the crowd was. You'll sign for the crowd you had tonight 100% for the late tip time. But the TV audience, the WAER audience, I can understand a little. People having gripes with so many late games.
Yeah, I mean
it's just tough for the students as well, to make it out for 9 p.m. tips. But I'm glad that the crowd was pretty good, because I know
the team must have drank some Red Bulls, because they had both of these teams actually. They had energy all night. This was a fun one. A lot
furious pace.
A lot of fast, a lot of highlights, plenty of high. I mean, the amount of dunks in this game, big threes. It was a fun game. Syracuse, of course, comes out on the winning end, and that's what these people care about who we're talking to.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, offensively, 180 points scored between these two teams, and
speed.
I think, you can point to the great
I
offense.
am speed.
But Nick, I really want to point to this defense, because this is, the first or second time this season? I'll kind of take the Iowa State game as put an asterisk on it, right? Third game in 3 days. You're missing Donnie Freeman. Yeah. I'm not really going to worry about that.
10 a.m. start.
Yeah.
You'd rather have a 9 p.m. start than a 10 a.m. start.
Right? So Iowa State puts up 95 in that game. This is the second highest total of the season against Syracuse. Other than that, I mean, what defensively did you see out of Syracuse that was really kind of cause from concern and some problems today?
Yeah, give Iowa State. Give Florida State some credit. They did make shots.
Yes, they did.
You always have to say that. They're a team that doesn't shoot it particularly well from three. They're right around where Syracuse is at, actually, coming into this one, low 30s. But they shot it pretty well in this one. I believe they were 37% on the game. Yeah, they much better in the first half. They cooled off in the second. But, I think that Coach Autry, I'll say, not as happy in the post game as you may think he'd be. And the defense was the reason why. I'll give him credit. People kind of gave him some guff when he made the comment about how there's nothing wrong with their offense. Remember that a few
yes, and I was one of those people.
Weeks ago.
I was one of those people.
I think that was after Mercyhurst, maybe.
It was.
Yeah. People kind of gave him some flack after that because it seems like he doesn't even care that their offense is near the bottom of the conference. I think it's pretty. He legitimately, genuinely, I think really cares about their defense a lot. In a way that he doesn't get as worked up about the offense. Now, I don't want to speak for him, but I mean, this is a game where the fans were pretty thrilled with this win. Like, the Dome was loud near the end, and Syracuse closed this team out. There were a ton of great offensive performances in this game. Donnie Freeman was fantastic. Nate George has 13 assists. He was great. William Kyle doing his thing. Obviously, Tyler Betsy, I'm sure we'll touch on him. But Coach Autry was pretty somber in the postgame because he hates allowing 86 points to Florida State, which you can't. I mean, it's a bad output. You can't blame him, right? I think that Syracuse near the end of the first half, they did the 2-3 zone thing, where and I think it helped him a little bit. But I mean, Florida State, I did think played pretty well in this one. You have to remember, I know I'm rambling here a little bit, but that Seminoles team, the last time they were on the court, it was a 44-point loss.
Yeah, it was.
So they really came to play in this one. They didn't want to have a repeat performance like that. So their compete was really good tonight. That was how Coach Laux put it after the game. And I think that, for that reason, they're a team with capable players, and so when they play hard, when they play inspired the way they did tonight, when they play with that chip on their shoulder, they can put points on the board. But yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're Coach Autry, you're not happy with 86 points.
I'm glad he had that kind of somber mode because I think the biggest credit to Autry this year is look at where the defense was last year. I mean, the defense was unwatchable last year, and everyone says when it comes to buying into a team, the way you do that is you play defense. So Autry has kind of made Syracuse's team all around defense this year, which is not something we thought would be the case at the start of the year. So I'm glad he was pretty disappointed in that effort. And again, Boston College coming up, that should be an easy one. But hopefully this is not a trend of kind of things flipping back to last year.
Yeah, because it would be he's walking the walk, right? It would be one thing if he kind of disregarded the bad offense earlier in the year. And chose to focus on how great the defense was. It would be one thing if now that it's flipped, at least for tonight, he was like, the defense would have, but who cares? We scored 94 points. Yeah. He was legitimately upset that
It's clear the defense is his priority on this team.
I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any question whatsoever.
And with the defense, right? I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit, Rahil, and where this team was last year defensively, right? I mean, this team is just so much more athletic,
big,
and that's something, right?
Tall,
I mean,
like
even compared to us, maybe not compared to the Orange.
Those guys dwarf me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But William Kyle, right? He's an undersized big man for what he is. He's 6'8", 6'9". He's not somebody that you look at and you think, wow, that is a typical center in this age of college basketball, but he still did
sort of
his
built
job.
like a 90s power forward.
Yeah, right? I mean, but defensively, this team is still really starting to figure it out. They're starting to figure it out, a lot more offensively, but
a lot more
just
offensively.
Some slip-ups defensively that, I kind of looked at and I said, you need to tweak a few things here because this can't happen against a team that's this inconsistent.
I think both coaches after this game will watch the film, and they really won't be happy with the transition defense. I don't think either one of them. Coach Laux talked about that after the game. He said, in the second half, he thought that their turnovers really lost them the game because, Syracuse got fast break points, and they couldn't set their defense.
That's what JJ does.
Syracuse early. I mean, this game Florida State came out. I mean, like they got fired out of a cannon.
Guns a-blazing.
Yeah, and
man.
They were making shots early, but they were also getting up and down on Syracuse. So I think maybe if you're Coach Autry, pick up the pace a little bit more defensively, get back faster. Those are kind of evergreen coaching points defensively. You could say, but no, I think that like you said, Josh, this team, they're going to have off nights, but they're so they're so tall, long, athletic. When you have the whole cavalry of guys like William Kyle, Donnie, Sadiq, Tyler Betsy's huge. Like when I mean he's
6'8",
when
can
he's
stretch
out
the
there,
floor.
They're going to have, really for the rest of the year, they're going to have the size advantage over most teams. Yeah. So, they're going to have to play to that on both ends.
It's definitely a lot more of an athletic team this year than it was last year. Syracuse takes this one by 8, 94-86. Josh Richardson, Rahil Jaswal, our reporter, Nick Evans. Anyone listening, if you want to talk to Nick, get his perspective on anything from inside the dome, call in and let us know. 315-443-2011. Again, 315-443-2011. You can also interact with us at WAER Sports Talk on YouTube. Nick, I also kind of want to touch on the Sadiq technical foul. I don't know if Autry talked about this during the press conference at all, but I mean, this was something that Rahil and I discussed, and we both agreed this absolutely could have been another turning point in this game, similar to how it was against Hofstra. But I mean, and for a little bit there, it was right. Florida State hit 4 consecutive free throws coming right off that technical, and really starts to claw its way back into this game. Syracuse didn't allow them to, but definitely, at least in my eyes, a little bit of a cause for concern that this has now happened again with Sadiq.
This team clearly, I mean, it jumps out of the speakers when you listen, or off the screen when you watch. They play with a ton of emotion.
Yeah.
Like they're a really
because of Autry, because Autry's very fired up on the
100%
on the sidelines.
Donnie is a super passionate player. So is Starling. The bench energy, as much as it kind of became like a running joke early in the year, the juicer station. It's I mean they get really hyped. Yeah, it's great. But
whatever you need to buy in, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think that the collective energy that they have helps them really kind of start these snowball effect sort of runs on teams like you saw tonight. So it can certainly be positive, but it can boil over, right? Because what happened the play right before that Sadiq technical, he has the big dunk on the lob, and so he's pumped up. He's excited. His the levels are rising inside of him, and then he gets called for a ticky-tack foul he doesn't like, and he kind of blows his top off right at the referee, gets teed up. So it definitely, the game was close enough at that point. It certainly could have ended up costing them more than it did. And Coach Autry said as much after the game. He said, I mean, he didn't excuse Sadiq. He said, this team has to contain its emotion a little bit better. And they really do, like, they celebrate a lot on the court. Like they
yes, they do. Yeah,
it's just
they're playing with some swag. And that they want to win these games. Mm-hmm. They're not just out there running the course, right?
It's totally visceral, and they have to hone it. Right, that's the thing. They have to. It can go both ways. It can play to your favor, and if you let it, if you don't harness it the right way, it can work against you.
And it's also partially, just Sadiq being a young guy, right? He's made his name on this team by bringing defensive energy, right?
Yeah,
and so that, it's just him learning. But again, the fact that it's happened now again, and Josh and I brought this up, now officials are going to be looking for it, right? There are some players where you look out for what they're saying after. And even though I don't think Sadiq deserved the technical, I don't think it was, it's not like he was up in his face constantly. It was
right or wrong, he got one.
Yeah, right. It was more just he said something in passing, but I think now he has to be aware of, officials are going to be looking for that. Mm-hmm. Officials are going to be looking to call that foul on me in that situation.
He was, when they went to the huddle after the call, he was viscerally upset. I couldn't really tell by the body language if he was upset with himself or if he was still
maybe both
upset at the call.
Probably both.
He kind of he was kind of like screaming to himself. He sort of did the thing where he like wanted to rip his jersey.
Yeah.
Nate George was talking to him, getting in his ear, trying to keep him in the game. So yeah, I mean,
good vet move from Nate George
for sure,
to do that.
For sure, it's something he's gonna I mean he's a freshman, right? How old's the kid? 19, maybe. We all make mistakes when we're these ages. So yeah, he's gonna have to be careful of it going forward, and hopefully it doesn't come back to bite him at any more important point down the road if you're a Syracuse fan.
Yeah, we've talked about the defense a little bit, kind of the ups and downs, ebbs and flows of this game. Now, offensively, something that we just talked about in the last block before we got you on is the three-pointers in the offense.
Yeah.
We've touched on it. Florida State had a really nice day. Syracuse did too, right? 11 of 27, over 40% from beyond the arc. But the big kind of sticking point that we had is, as the season goes on, do you start to do something about Nate Kings versus Tyler Betsy? Minutes? Maybe you move him into the starting lineup. Maybe you keep him off the bench, but just the minute distribution changes a bit from where it was. Mm-hmm. What's your kind of take on that? Did Autry say anything about that?
I think
because Betsy got to close the game out with the starters, right? He played those last few minutes, and he played really well.
He played almost 5 minutes more than Nate Kings did tonight. You know, I mean, I think Autry likes Nate Kings defensively more than Tyler Betsy on the perimeter. You have plenty of size in that starting lineup, so you don't need Betsy in that regard, but you theoretically could use his jump shot 100%.
Yeah.
He's an impressive shooter. I mean, he has the shooting tool where he can make it at any release point, right? So he had one in the corner tonight, didn't dip it. That's a sign of a great shooter, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when like Klay Thompson, when you can
adjust on the fly,
when you can catch it high and release it high and make it, those are hard shots to make. And you know, he's hit a few of those this season. He had one tonight. Of course, he goes 6 of 8. I mean, he's obviously, the numbers prove it. He's shot the ball much better than Nate Kings has this season, and so do you say, okay, we have enough defense elsewhere. If he's going to keep shooting it this way, can he be the guy that we put in the starting lineup? Can he, or like you said, can we just play him more than Nate Kings? Right, just because you start doesn't mean you have to play more than all the guys coming off the bench. So, and we saw that tonight. I definitely think it's a question worth asking. If you're Adrian Autry, I would probably. If you just ask me in a vacuum, would you want Tyler Betsy to play more than Nate Kings? Until Nate Kings proves otherwise, I would say yes right now. Maybe it's recency bias after what we just saw, but I mean, he doesn't even have, like, he's the kind of shooter where he doesn't even really have to, like, touch the ball many times. I mean, he doesn't need a rhythm. He comes off the bench. How often does he make the first three he takes in these games?
Pretty often.
It seems like every night. So yeah, he's a really good player. They got a good one in him from Cincinnati. There's no question.
And I think you also do have to factor in the clutchness. You know, how many times has he made some clutch threes? Everyone brings up the Houston one,
right?
But even in this game, the game's getting away from you. It's a 1-point game. He knocks down a three in the corner that's pretty tightly contested. It's just kind of those ebbs and flows where if you had Kings in the game there, maybe that's one with the way he's shooting that just doesn't fall. It's like these are all questions worth asking. And
Kings can do more.
Overall, yes, and that's what we've talked about.
That was my take. Yeah. I said he's a better basketball player right now, but Betsy's a better shooter.
Tyler Betsy, obviously doesned want to dribble the ball. Like, clearly,
no, he doesn't want to put it on the floor. He catch and shoot guy. Yeah,
we tweeted this on the WAR Sports Talk account during the game. They, in my opinion, involve him in action too much. Like, he's not a guy that you should be running off a cross screen to get to the wing so that he can catch and then dribble handoff with something. Like, he should be planted somewhere, waiting to shoot
in the corner.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't really know if the coaching staff has fully figured out how to use him. Maybe they just feel more comfortable with Nate Kings because he's more versatile. But as far as just the deep threat. Yeah, there's no question Tyler Betsy is, I think, your number one guy on the Syracuse team.
And then, I mean, the issue also is Josh and I touched on this as well. Let's say you do make the change. I mean, Betsy's also capable of throwing in a game where he shoots, he had his struggles at the start of the year where he shoots, 1 of 6, and all of a sudden, do you go back to Kings? You don't want to be playing this hot potato, of flipping the lineup every game. Mm-hmm. So it's just something to note going forward.
Yeah, and now that they're on a winning streak.
Yeah, you don't want to really tamper with it when you've won 3 straight.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's definitely a situation where, and we touched on this, does Kings lose confidence then if maybe Autry moves him to the bench, right? I think there is that versatility that he brings that deserves to keep him in the starting lineup, right? And I said this to Rahil, you you don't get lucky shooting 44% from three over the course of a season at a Power 4 conference.
Yeah.
Right? I think he's proven that he can showcase this and he can bring this to a team. And even just that upside, he can put the ball on the deck. Stuff like that is really big to this team. I don't know if a change gets made against Boston College. I don't know if it gets made against Virginia Tech. I don't know if there should be a change in the starting lineup anyway. Yeah. But if you take Betsy off the bench and maybe you put Kings down there and his confidence is blown, then where's your bench production coming from, right?
It isn't rare, if we're talking about the year Kings has had. Even if you are just a flat out really good shooter, like guys do have just rough shooting seasons. Like full seasons. I mean, it happens, right? Look at Chris Bell.
Chris Bell's a prime example.
Look at Chris Bell 2 years ago,
and now
last year,
and now this year again.
Yeah,
at Cal.
And I mean, there's tons of I can't even like. I remember when a few years ago when Wesley Matthews became a Laker.
Yes.
And couldn't hit water for an entire season with them. And I mean, he's a guy. How many years has he had shooting 38% from? And he couldn't make
in Portland
anything.
for a while.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Milwaukee,
Dallas for a little bit there.
So you like it isn't uncommon to have these kind of seasons if you're a shooting specialist. Sometimes maybe it's the environment. This is a new team for Nate Kings. It's hard to put your finger on what it is, but it isn't uncommon to just kind of have a year where you don't shoot it at the clip that you normally do. And it's kind of unexplainable, but it certainly does happen. So maybe he'll snap out of it and really, shoot it better here down the stretch, but maybe not, right? We kept saying the same thing about Chris Bell a year ago, and it never happened.
And you thought after Nate Kings had the game, the first half he did against Tennessee, where he knocks down,
19 points.
Yeah, he scores 19 points in the first half. You're thinking, oh, he's finally arrived, and then didn't really do anything in the second half of that.
Scored
0 points, and then it's kind of been you're almost just waiting for it again. Now, I guess the bright side is that he's shown even when he is struggling, he can pop a 19-point half against a top 25 team. So maybe if he is struggling going into one of these games against the Duke, against the North Carolina, that he's more than capable of turning the season around. But it's just. I know you brought up the point about people having bad shooting seasons. It's true, but it's if it continues at some point, you got to make a change. Now, whether it takes a big loss to do that, we don't know. I don't think you touch the starting lineup now, just because, like you said, you're on a 3-game win streak. You don't want to mess with any sort of momentum that you've got.
Yeah, I think that's totally right. If I had to guess, I would say that's the coaching staff's mentality right now. Is We're 3-1 in conference play, not beating the best opponents. Let's be honest, but we're riding 3 in a row. We're not going to touch anything until we have to. Don't fix it until it's broken.
Yeah. One more thing I really want to touch on here, Nick, because this is big.
Can I guess what it is?
Go right ahead.
Donnie Freeman?
No, okay. Somebody that just joined the Syracuse men's basketball roster.
All right. Let's
5-star
talk some
wide
Cal.
receiver Calvin Russell,
Gump,
the dual
baby.
sport athlete from Florida. What was that like? What did you see from him, maybe even just in warm-ups? I mean, obviously he didn't play.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably not going to play this year, but just him being there, and what could he bring basketball-wise to this team? Because it's not uncommon in college basketball, maybe decreasing now that guys are playing multiple sports, but what type of upside can he bring to Syracuse moving forward in his time here during his 4 years?
So I'll just outline what I saw in warm-ups, because during the game I saw him sit on the bench and clap.
Yeah. Just about the same as Noah Lepta.
He's probably he's a legitimate 6'5", I'd say, which bodes well on the gridiron. Basketball as a he didn't really look nearly smooth enough to be a guard, so I would classify him as undersized. Lefty, has a nice form.
Okay.
Not many went in. I'm being honest. I mean, he was planted at that right elbow.
Objective
pregame.
reporting. Love to hear it.
I didn't see him make many. Now, obviously, a natural fluid athlete, like no question about that. I think you can, this. I mean, this is a me thing to say, but you can tell when someone's a hooper. Okay, He's played a lot of basketball. If I had to, just by watching him, he looks.
Is it how he
comfortable.
jogs off the court?
He looks comfortable out there. It's not like he didn't look like new tonight.
Okay.
So I think that is something that I think you can kind of hold your hat on. He did. This is no surprise. He dunked the ball very easily. Maybe not like Sadiq White easily, but for a 6'5" guy, he can get up. There's zero question. So I think you bet on the pedigree is not the right. You
bet on the athleticism.
You bet on the tools, right?
Yeah.
You bet on the tools. It's kind of a fun thing. Right, I mean, let's just be honest.
He's here to play football.
It's
our
one of the
teams here at
main.
Syracuse aren't averse.
And it's one of the main reasons why he came here over. Because other schools like Michigan were offering the opportunity, and then it was like if Syracuse didn't offer them that opportunity, he might go somewhere else.
Right.
So something you had to give him. And who knows? Maybe this maybe this just helps him enjoy his time here more. Maybe this is a good break from him focusing about being a wide receiver. Maybe it's just a good way to kind of switch off from football for a little
100%.
bit. Just something he enjoys doing. I assume he loves being on the bench with the guys. So even though he's not playing, it's still probably good for him to have this kind of, when the football season's not going on.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought I saw something like a week or two ago where he scored like 38 points in like some high school tournament
Wouldn't
game
surprise
or something.
me.
Yeah. So I mean, it didn't look like this was a football player trying basketball. Like he clearly has played a long time and knows how to play. Now is he Power 5 Division I level right now? Maybe not, but we can. There's a football off season. We can work around these things. We can try to build this kid up, and we'll see what he becomes.
Only time will tell with Calvin Russell to see if he can, do a whole lot for this men's basketball team. Maybe not this year, but
let's
maybe
first improve the performance on the gridiron.
On the gridiron, yeah. We'll see what he can do.
It was his guy. Fran was in the building tonight too, so.
Yeah. We'll see what he can do for
He
Syracuse
better be able
football.
to play football. Right.
Yeah, that is true.
That's priority number one, right?
Well,
Nick, thank you so much for joining us
Thanks,
here
guys.
on the Double Overtime
for
a lot of great reporting, bringing us all of the information that you had from inside the Dome. We've got about 13 minutes left here on the Double Overtime up until 1 a.m. where Hill and I got a little bit more to talk about and give our final thoughts after this 8-point win for Syracuse. Don't go anywhere here on WAER.
11% of WAER's yearly funding came from federal funds. That's $175,000, and that funding is now gone. We cannot wait for you to step forward and become a member. Start a monthly donation or add a few dollars to your monthly gift. Now is the time as public media funding navigates an uncertain future. Support from you is crucial. Join us during our coalition campaign to raise back what we've lost. Give now at WAER.org.
The Ostrom Avenue Podcast, breaking down Syracuse athletics.
The students rush the field. The Orange are bowl eligible and 6-0 for just the third time in the last 87 years.
And interviewing the industry's experts.
We are now joined by a very special guest. It's Emily Liker of Syracuse.com.
Check out video interviews on YouTube at Ostrom Avenue Podcast and weekly episodes on WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
News hour from the BBC.
Understand what's happening.
With news.
What's going on? Heat waves, cyclones, storms, floods.
Increasingly unpredictable weather events.
Interviews.
2024 is the hottest year on record.
This is an uncharted situation.
And analysis of the day's global events.
In the Middle East, it's very difficult to be shocked nowadays.
That's News hour from the BBC.
Weekdays after morning edition at 9 on WAER, your local NPR station.
J.J. Starling with the steal, moving down the right alley. Lob up ahead, White with the slam! The Energizer Bunny, skies for the flush, Sadiq White.
Back here on the Double Overtime. 11 minutes to go till the clock strikes 1 a.m. Rahil Jaswal alongside Josh Richardson. Still got 11 minutes, so you can call in at 315-443-2011. But Josh, we've alluded to the upcoming schedule, so we're going to run through Syracuse's next couple games, give our take before we get into our final words.
Yep.
So let's start with you. Obviously, I think Boston College
Win.
are both chalking up to a W. Now, this is where it gets interesting. You got Virginia Tech, Miami, NC State, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Virginia. A couple of those squads ranked, and maybe a couple of them could be moving up.
Could be
in the next couple days.
I'm gonna say both Virginia Tech and Miami are at home. I'm gonna say they split.
I agree with that. I think that's the most.
I don't know
logical.
which one they win.
Those are
obviously
toss-ups.
Yeah.
They're toss-ups.
They're both quad 2 games as of right now. I think logic says that they probably beat Virginia Tech and lose to Miami. But again, this team plays up and down to opponents.
It could be the other way, given Virginia Tech is not a 9 p.m. tip. So stuff like that.
I wouldn't hold it against them, or I wouldn't put it past them to do either of those things, win either of those games. I think they win one, lose one. I would say of those two.
I would agree with that. So we both have them at 2-1 in this 3-game stretch. Then you go at NC State, which is a very difficult place to play. I don't think they pull out a win in that scenario.
Yeah, I don't think so either. That's a quad 1 game. Now in this stretch, right? If we have them going 2-1 in those first 3, now 3 of the next 4 are against quad 1 opponents. I think they get 1. I don't think that one is NC State, so I'm going to chalk that one up as a loss, but then bounce back against Notre Dame next game.
Yeah, that Notre Dame game back at home, Syracuse quad 2 opportunity. We'll see where Notre
Could be some fireworks on the sidelines because the Shrewsberries tend to bring some heat.
Yeah, that was
interesting.
That was something, but
wouldn't be the first time either in Syracuse too, because that happened a couple years ago.
I think that would be a nice W for Syracuse to pick up, and I think they get that done. But then after that, now you've got the 2 ranked games. Number 14 North Carolina, number 16 Virginia. Again, could move up and down, but both these squads have kind of solidified their place in the top 25. I see them dropping both of these.
I'm going win North Carolina.
You're going to win North Carolina?
I'm going lose Virginia.
So you're a little bit more optimistic than me.
I think North Carolina just tends to be more vulnerable, especially to Syracuse. It happened 2 years ago. Right? I think Virginia is good. I think North Carolina is good as well. But I think Syracuse will get up for a game in Chapel Hill more than it will get up for a game in JPJ.
And I do agree with that, but I think it'll be one of those scenarios similar to Houston where North Carolina is a tough game. You lose, and then you're kind of deflated, and then maybe you kind of lay a bit of an egg.
It's possible.
Virginia.
Which is why I think, maybe if the games were flipped, I would have them beating Virginia because, that could be a bit of a deflating game. But so overall in that, I have them going, it's 2-1, lost 2-2, win. So I have 4-3 during
So I have
that
3
stretch,
and 4
3 and 4
in this stretch,
And now that's going to get really difficult for them to start to piece together a tournament resume.
Yeah, if you have, in either of our scenarios, if you have that many losses, the likelihood you get a very solid
4-3 after that is 16-8. That's going to be close.
It's just a Hofstra loss.
Because then you still have Duke and North Carolina and Louisville up again on the schedule. And SMU.
As well.
There's a lot that still has to go SU's way. And you can't help but just point to that Hofstra loss as a big catalyst as to why Syracuse has such less breathing room down the stretch of the schedule.
Yep. So I have them going 3-4. You have them going 4-3.
Yep.
But now we still have a little bit of time left. 7 minutes. It's time to get into our final words. Josh, what is your takeaway from tonight's win?
So, Rahil, I like to golf in my free time.
Yes, you do.
Never said I was very good at it. Lose quite a bit compared to some of the other fine folks here at WAER and some alums of the past. But I'll make a golf reference here for my final word. My final word is the offense played like a scratch golfer. This is the defense's mulligan. The offense played great, 94 points, most points this season. It was great. I mean, what else can you really say, right? 41% from 3. They shot 60-ish% from the field. I mean, that was exactly what you want out of your offense. 60% on the money from the field. Free throws, 9 of 15, whatever. Put up 94 points. They played well. 86 points is far too many to allow to a 7-10 team and 0-4 in the ACC. Iowa State, I understand. You give up 95, whatever. They're the second best team in the country entering today. Obviously lost to Kansas, whatever. Top 5 team in the nation. 86 points is too many to allow to Florida State. This is the one. This is the one defensively that Syracuse gets. Chalk it up, say, hey, we've got to be better tomorrow, we've got to be better on Saturday, and we've got to be better moving forward. But I don't know if this offense can go for 94 points every single night. So if you give up 80, if you give up 85, and any more than that, you're going to be in some trouble. The defense needs to lock in. Autry said just as much in the postgame. He's right. The team knows it. Now you have to execute. This is the one you get. You can't do it again.
I like it.
Thank you.
I love the golf reference.
Thank
now,
you.
I don't play much golf, so I'm not going to drop a golf reference. But were you a roller coaster kid growing up?
No, I hated them.
Okay,
I
so
was terrified.
I was also not a very big roller coaster guy myself. But my final word for this one is Syracuse basketball is exactly the same as a very, very, very scary roller coaster. When you sit down to watch a game, you're excited. Everyone loves watching basketball. You act excited before the roller coaster, right? You know, you go through the initial prospect. You're like, yeah, we're going on this with my friends. It's going to be a lot of fun. You strap in. Syracuse starts slow. You're going up the roller coaster. You're thinking, oh, no, what have I done? What have I done? My lunch is coming full circle. Everything is coming up. Oh, I'm not going to make it. And that first part goes by, and you're scared for your life. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Why did I do this? I want to call my mother. Like, this is bad. But then there's a point where you get into it. You're like, let's embrace this. And so then you're going on the roller coaster, and you see the camera. You take the nice picture. You know when everyone's like this? Like, you take the nice picture, like, yeah, I can do this. I'm look at me. I'm a roller coaster kid. And all of a sudden, it hits you again. You're going back up the big loop, and you're like, oh, my God, I can't do this. One time was good enough. One time was good enough. And it just takes you on this up and down ride, and you're exhausted by the end of it. I mean, your legs probably hurt. And your friend comes up to you and go, hey, you all right? I say, do it again in 3 days. We'll do it again in 3 days, because that's what happens with this Syracuse team. They take you on a ride, but you're always going to watch them.
You're always going to watch them.
You're always going to watch them. And we're always going to cover them.
We're always going to cover them here at WAER. Syracuse, it was certainly a roller coaster tonight. 94-86 win over Florida State. What a game. What a call from Ryan Randoni and Griffin
Great job.
Marcy.
Great job from the boys tonight.
Great job for you
thank
here on the double overtime tonight. This has been a whole lot of fun. Syracuse claws this one out. Couple of thank yous about this wonderful broadcast tonight. Our producer, Dan Shalom. Our engineer, Jason Stilakis. Our reporter, Nick Evans, who got to be here and talk with us. For our WAER Sports Talk desk, Ella Armbruster, Nick Zuby, and Augie Walters. What a performance from everyone associated with this wonderful station. Syracuse claws out the win and now gets to do it again in just 3 short days. Saturday, January 17th against Boston College. Our next broadcast game is at 2 o'clock. McClure Remodeling countdown to tip-off at 1:30. The double overtime will be until 6 p.m., so a little bit earlier than we got it. How lucky are they, Rahil? The double overtime with Drew Albaugh and Nick King. That goes up until 6 p.m. You can also listen to the Ostrom Avenue podcast wherever you get your podcast or at WAER.org. That's it for tonight. Everybody get a great round of sleep. I know that I'm going to sleep as soon as we get off the air. Rahil, this has been a whole lot of fun. For Rahil Jaswal, our reporter Nick Evans, and for everybody here at WAER, I'm Josh Richardson signing off. Have a good night.